After a breakup, we're often left wondering what happened. Why exactly did things fall apart? Well, if you want to understand your breakup, you first have to understand your ex. And this is really important whether you want to move on or you want to win them back. Of course, I'm Brad Browning, author of the X Factor 2.0 and world-renowned breakup expert. And I love to dive deep into the science behind this stuff. I just find that the psychology involved in breakups totally fascinating. And so I started this channel so I could share what I've learned with people who actually need it. So please consider subscribing if you want your ex back. Now, terms like avoidant attachment and narcissism get used pretty liberally these days, but what do they really mean? And more importantly, how do they apply to your ex? Well, today I'll lay out exactly what it means to be an avoidant or a narcissist. We'll talk a little bit about why the two often get confused and how you can tell them apart. And then, of course, we'll talk about how to use this information if you want to win your ex back. So first off, what exactly is a narcissist and why should you care? So narcissism is a term that actually comes from Greek myth. The story goes that there was this guy named Narcissus who was very full of himself. He rejected a nymph, and so the gods cursed him to fall in love with his own reflection. And that's really what narcissism is all about. Narcissists are really into themselves. They have an inflated sense of self-importance, a deep need for admiration, and really a lack of empathy for others. They're preoccupied with fantasies of power, success, ideal love, and perfection, and they really believe that they're superior to others. You might call them selfish, self-obsessed, egotistical, conceited, vain, arrogant, but there's actually a lot more going on than you might think. Now, in this video, I'm using the language associated with narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, just to be clear. But while your ex may not, have a formal diagnosis or fully meet the criteria, they could still be a narcissist. Because, as we talked about, narcissism is not a modern phenomenon. For as long as there have been people, there have been narcissists. And it's definitely a spectrum, and not everybody who struggles with these issues displays, every behavior on the list. We can all be a bit narcissistic sometimes, but that, of course, doesn't mean that everyone is a narcissist. Just like going to the gym twice a year doesn't make you a bodybuilder. It's really about the consistency of this kind of behavior. Now, let's talk a bit about NPD. Now, often it stems from early experiences of excessive pampering or extreme criticism, which causes people to develop, an exaggerated sense of self-worth as much as a defense mechanism as anything else. They felt like they had to act this way to protect themselves from the world, and often from their parents or primary caregivers. Now, this doesn't let them off the hook for their behavior, but parental neglect or abuse is another thing that you can look for in your ex if you are wondering if they fit the bill or not. Another major sign of narcissism is grandiosity. The narcissist really has an inflated sense of their own importance and their achievements. So they speak of themselves, only in glowing terms, and they'll never admit weakness or failure. They have very little sense of humor about themselves. And they'll also exaggerate and lie just to make themselves look better. But the thing is, they often don't know that they're lying. They really do see themselves this way. It's like, my life is a movie and I'm the main character. And while the people in their lives are rarely more than supporting characters, they also benefit from some of this reflective glory. So their partners, their friends, their family are the best, the kindest, the most successful people. But only as long as they stick to the script and give the narcissist what he or she wants. So if you question their narrative or call them out for their lies, suddenly you're a bad person, you're evil, or you're stupid. And this is a classic pattern of manipulation that the narcissist really isn't always aware of. In fact, narcissists vary greatly in their awareness of their own condition. So some know that their negative behavior is just a mask hiding a deep insecurity, but others are completely unaware that they're even doing it. But that doesn't change their attitude or their tendency towards manipulation. Narcissists see other people as a means to an end. They'll use people to get what they want and then discard them. They'll hurt people, without remorse, because they can always justify this behavior to themselves. Now, they're also often very charming and flattering, and when that doesn't work, they'll just lie to you and degrade you. Now, this can be subtle, but if your ex often made you feel like you were being, used or manipulated, this is a clear sign, even if they manage to convince you that you're crazy. And when they're being nice, it can feel like an act, like they don't actually care about you at all, and they're just saying what you want to hear. No, you weren't imagining it. Narcissists lack empathy, so they often only pretend to care about others. They'll be dismissive of your own feelings and really focus only on their own. They'll minimize your struggles and your needs just in order to avoid having to actually treat you right. And on top of all this, they have a constant need for admiration and love. They want to be worshipped so that they can maintain their inflated self-esteem. We call this idea narcissistic supply. That supply being, love, attention, and affection, validation, essentially. Now, of course, we all have a need to feel good about ourselves, but narcissists need much, much more than the rest of us. And because it's such a high priority for them, and because they lack empathy, they'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. So they'll fish for compliments, they'll dominate conversations, engage in attention-seeking behaviors. And that's another reason for their grandiosity. They're trying to get people to focus on them so they can build their supply. So, say you're at a bar together. They might dance on the table, drink way too much, even punch somebody. And this obviously will turn a lot of heads. And they'd rather be the center of attention for the wrong reasons than just fade into the background. And this attention-seeking behavior is something that's not typical in avoidance. So while being an avoidant obviously has a lot to do with a person's psychology, the label is not as well established as narcissism is. It's also much easier to go unnoticed in a person because it really only rears its head when it comes to relationships. And we are, of course, talking specifically about avoidant attachment here. Now, avoidant attachment is one of the 4 attachment styles. Everyone has an attachment style, and that style determines how they connect with other people and how they form attachments. And this dictates the way we deal with others in relationships. Our triggers, our strategies, weaknesses, and strengths. And those with the avoidant attachment style really struggle with intimacy and they find it hard to rely on others. Avoidant attachment can develop from childhood experiences, particularly if a child learns that expressing emotions and relying on caregivers just leads to disappointment or rejection. So as children, they felt like they never had their needs met by others, so they turned inward. And as adults, they maintain a great deal of emotional distance in relationships and they prioritize their independence over their need for connection. So they avoid situations where they might need to rely on somebody else, fearing that it could lead to vulnerability or disappointment. So for this reason, avoidants tend to withdraw emotionally and physically when a relationship becomes, too intimate or demanding. So they can cancel plans, become less communicative, and really, avoid deep conversations. So for example, maybe you notice this person, pulling back whenever you try to discuss future plans or, express deeper feelings, at least while you were dating. Avoidants, they prefer to handle their problems independently. So if your ex rarely talked about their feelings or avoided discussing emotional topics, that could be a sign. And this mentality, it forces them to develop extreme emotional self-reliance. They pride themselves on being self-sufficient and, managing their emotions independently. Now, obviously, this has its downsides, but it's also a major source of strength and one of the things that may have drawn you to them in the first place. And they'll prioritize, their personal goals, careers, or hobbies over any kind of deep emotional connection with others. And so they may be more successful and more well-rounded than your average person, at least outside of relationships. You might also notice that they, resist making commitments or integrating their life with yours as the relationship develops. A big indicator of avoidance is the reluctance to be exclusive or hit typical relationship milestones at a normal pace. And avoidance will also frequently choose to spend time alone or with friends over just being with you. They'll often ask for space either with words or through their actions. Now, of course, it can be really hurtful to feel like you're second fiddle to somebody's friends in a relationship, but that's not how your ex sees you. It's not that they care more about their friends. It's that their friends don't threaten their independence the way that a romantic partner does. No matter what you do to make them comfortable, for an avoidant, love is just scary compared to friendship because they know that if they wanted, they could retreat into their solitude for a month and their friends would still be there, whereas a relationship brings expectations. Now, some of you watching are probably asking, how could you mix these two groups up? They're different in practically every way. And others are saying, I still don't know if my ex is an avoidant or a narcissist. Well, I think this actually makes a lot of sense, especially if your ex isn't an extreme narcissist or an extreme avoidant. So the fact is that there's one major feature that these two groups share, and that is selfishness. The difference is how this selfishness actually expresses itself and where it stems from. So growing up, avoidants found that others couldn't be relied on to meet their needs. It felt like it was them against the world, so now they have an ingrained sense of disdain and distrust for others, at least on some level. They know they want love and affection, but they struggle to get it, and so they can sometimes feel that it's just not worth the trade-off. They feel they have to give up their independence in order to get love. They see letting somebody in as an incredibly difficult task. And this can lead some avoidants to be characterized as selfish or even narcissistic. Because avoidants, they can be so distant that they seem like they only care about themselves. Basically, it's the, I don't need anyone else, I can do it all on my own attitude. And this can be pretty arrogant and even narcissistic in its own way. But it's typically not as malignant as narcissism is because they're more often on the defensive rather than the offensive. Being avoidant really just means that you lack the capacity to actually get as close to somebody as you'd like to. Keywords there being like to. You see, avoidants want to connect with other people despite what they might say. They're not truly hermits or loners as much as they are people who've been hurt. Now, they hate this behavior as much as you do. So it's not necessarily selfishness, but more a lack of capacity. And the same really can't be said for narcissists. Their selfishness is a feature, not a bug. Because of their upbringing, they developed an inflated sense of self-esteem that masked a deep sense of unworthiness. And this combo causes them to make really everything about themselves. But at the same time, narcissists do share some tactics with avoidants. Like avoidants, they'll go cold, they'll pull away, they might stonewall you, but they don't do this as a way to protect themselves. They do it to manipulate you. So if you don't do what they want, or if you treat them in a way that they don't like, they can cut you off completely in an instant. They can use their absence to hurt you and then show up when you're at your weakest to just shower you with love and attention. And by repeating this behavior, you create a situation where you associate their absence with pain and their presence with relief. Obviously, avoidance isn't as baked into their personality as it is for a true avoidant. Narcissists are typically very social because they want an audience, so they can't stay away for long. Now, not having access to their inner monologue, you won't always be able to see the difference. And really, whatever their diagnosis, the result is the same. You're with somebody who refuses to treat you right and actually fulfill your needs. And that's why these two groups, they often get mixed up because they are difficult to manage, they're neglectful, and they breed resentment. And since both of these issues can, create a barrier to connecting with another person, they can be hard to pinpoint since the other person, probably won't let you get as close as you'd like. So let's use an example. Imagine you're in a relationship with this person and, you have a bone to pick with them. They've been, staying out late with their friends at a casino several nights a week. They come in late, they wake you up and it's affecting your sleep. And on top of that, maybe it makes you feel neglected. It's like they don't have time for you anymore. Now the narcissist will turn it around on you. They'll dismiss your criticisms. They'll say that they were so quiet that they doubt you really woke up. You're just trying to start a fight. You don't want them to be happy. You don't care about them. In fact, they're doing this for you. They're winning money to take you on a nice vacation. And now you've ruined the surprise. Now suddenly you don't know what you're fighting about and somehow they make you feel like you're the one who messed up. Now the avoidant, on the other hand, will probably clam up. They might apologize to get you off their back, but you'll wonder, if they really mean it. And in the coming days, they'll probably be quiet and standoffish. They might still stay out late, but they'll, sleep on the couch instead of waking you up. You'll probably both feel like you're walking on eggshells. Now that's obviously not the most elegant example, but those are the main differences between the two groups. So hopefully at this point you now have a better idea of if your ex is actually an avoidant or a narcissist, because if you do want to reconnect with them, you do need to handle the two of them very differently. Now, just a quick note before we get into strategy, I will say that these are major issues. So please, don't underestimate them. They can improve and they can change with time and treatment, but your ex isn't going to suddenly magically be cured one day. So you do need to ask yourself if you're willing and able to actually live with these people as they are. Now, this isn't like a gotcha question. Many people find that they can create a happy life despite these issues, while others can't. I believe, that if you look inside, you probably already know the answer. And if you do decide to move forward, you're going to want to figure out what your chances are. So to find out if you still have a shot with your ex, go to breakupbrad.com/quiz after the video's over and just take my free 5-minute quiz. Again, breakupbrad.com/quiz, and you'll answer the question for yourself, what are my chances with my ex? But now let's get back into how to handle these two different groups if you do want to win them back. So to win back any ex, you need to think like they do. So for a narcissist, you need to cater to their need for admiration while still maintaining strong boundaries to actually protect yourself from manipulative behavior. Now, they've messed with your head more than once, so don't be shy about turning the tables on them and playing to their vanity and their need for narcissistic supply. Again, that's their oversized need for love and attention. The supply is what allows them to maintain their inflated ego. Dating a narcissist means, you have to roll with the punches and hit back when you need to, metaphorically anyways. You have to stand up for yourself or they'll walk all over you. So show them that you're strong and you're worthy of their respect and attention. They want you to be somebody that they admire because having high quality people in their life, reflects well on them. And remember, narcissists thrive on validation. So appealing to this need can help draw them back to you. But, instead of just, love bombing them, keep things in the realm of reality. Show genuine interest in their successes and make them feel valued. And praise them for doing things that benefit you. So if they take you on a date, they treat you right and they genuinely try to make an effort, then show them how you appreciate it. They'll want more praise, and so they'll repeat this behavior. Now, unlike most exes, narcissists may actually be swayed by grand romantic gestures that make them feel important and give them a chance to be in the spotlight. Now, this is definitely not something I'd usually recommend, but true narcissists are a special case. So you want them to really feel special, so they'll keep coming back for more. So, don't be afraid to get messy, big, and actually romantic. Now, I know you may feel excited when they start to give you attention back, but remember that this attention can turn into manipulation in seconds. And that's why it's crucial to set clear boundaries to protect yourself. So, learn to spot their manipulation and any kind of toxic behaviors they have. Find that line for yourself and let your ex know when they cross it. Communicate those boundaries clearly and assertively. Let them know, what behaviors are unacceptable, and be truly prepared to enforce these limits. For instance, you could tell them that while you appreciate them, you won't tolerate being disrespected or manipulated, and be ready to stand by those boundaries. Now, I know that many people are reluctant to set boundaries with their exes, out of fear of scaring them off. But in reality, this will make your ex respect you more, which will draw them to you rather than pushing them away. And remember, they tend to be selfish, so they need to see how being together will actually benefit them. So emphasize the ways, in which being with you is good for them. So for instance, you'll always be there to support them when they're feeling down. You'll pump them up when no one else will. Maybe you'll be in their corner, but you'll also help to ground them when they need it. This kind of directness, however, is less applicable to an avoidant ex. So remember, you always want to try and think like your ex. If they're avoidant, they're scared of intimacy and scared of intense emotions and of demands on their time and their freedom. So you need to start by approaching them in a way that respects their need for space and independence. One of the most important things to do when dealing with an avoidant ex is to give them space. Avoidants feel overwhelmed by too much closeness, so it's crucial not to crowd them. By respecting their need for space, you show that you understand and value their independence. And this helps to reduce their anxiety so they're more comfortable reconnecting. So for example, instead of blowing up their phone or trying to see them daily, you must give them time to miss you and to come to terms with their own feelings. Rebuilding a connection with an avoidant ex really has to be done slowly and gradually. Remember, avoidants are wary of intense emotional experiences, so taking things slowly can really help them feel safe. So start with, very low pressure hangouts, avoid deep conversations initially, and just focus on things that you both enjoy. This way, you're allowing the relationship to naturally evolve on their terms. Think about how you can make them comfortable. You want them to see you as a safe place, so you need to take it slow. And don't get too invested too quickly and allow them to set the pace. It's always better to give them too much space rather than not enough. They might surprise you by being the one to bridge that gap for you. And at the same time, you need to show them your own independence and your own stability. Now, avoidants often fear that relationships will jeopardize their independence. So demonstrating that you can be a stable presence in their life is reassuring. They'll see that you're not going to ask for more of them than they can handle when you show them that you can manage your own emotions. And here's a tough one with everything so uncertain at this point, but you need to be consistent in your actions and show that you can be trusted. So avoid sudden changes in behavior or major demands for commitment, which can really trigger their fear of interdependence. Showing that you can respect their boundaries and you can be a reliable partner can really help them feel more secure in rekindling the relationship. I know that it's hard to accept a certain level of distance in a relationship, but here's the thing. The more you're able to accept that space, the more your ex will be willing to get closer to you than they were before. All right, so let's summarize quickly. The biggest overlap between narcissists and avoidants is selfishness and a failure to meet the needs of their partners. But at the core, they're very different and they really do need to be treated differently as well. Avoidants require patience, space, and consistency, while narcissists need admiration, boundaries, and a focus on mutual benefits. And remember, your own self-esteem is the most important thing here, because really, you can lose yourself in this process if you're not careful. So you need to take a cue from them and learn to be selfish sometimes. And I can't say this enough, but you're not their doctor, you're not their therapist. You can't save them from themselves. But all of that can wait until you make that connection again and you're off to a great start. Because by understanding their characteristics and employing the strategies that I've recommended, you can actually create a relationship that lasts. And that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, for liking, subscribing, and sharing my content. I, of course, am Brad Browning, and I'll see you next time.